Hello, everybody. I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and we gotta get right on into this. Yeah, I've been rewatching, I've been analyzing, I've been dissecting the Year is 2054 trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. I originally didn't think there was that much to this, but then I kept looking at it, and I kept finding things, and I need to share my results with you. Now, I know I'm late on this video, I understand that, I'm cognizant of it, and I haven't seen other people break this trailer down myself, so I don't even know if the things I'm about to present to you all are particularly new or anything, but, dude, when you make these connections, this looks so good to me. This just looks so tantalizing. Okay, but let's lay the groundwork first and build up from that. Let's do that first. New things in this trailer. We have a new mech called Skells in Xenoblade Chronicles X, and apparently this goes by the name of Ragnarok. It's a lightweight, speedy little thing, but it also uses a giant freaking katana, and it looks pretty badass. Though you already know throughout my playthrough, I'm absolutely gonna call this thing the Tricycle. 1000% is just going to happen. We need to just understand that going into this. And the thing I found particularly fascinating about this section here of the trailer is that, funnily enough, it happens in Silverloom. Now, for those who have played the story of Xenoblade X before, you'll know that Silverloom is a really great zone. It's one of my favorite zones they've ever made. But there's not all that much that happens there for the main story. There are a few things, but compared to like most of the other zones, it doesn't feel all that impactful. You go there a lot for side content and things like that. It's an important zone, don't get me wrong. The game only has 5 of them, but it does just kind of feel like a stepping stone to get to Cauldros, or whatever the heck that final zone's called. It is Cauldros, okay, I'm a living god, but it does seem as if this will be one main story, because I can't imagine this would be just side quest or anything like that. They're probably going to be, like, introducing some new elements to the story throughout, building up to the big epilogue section we're going to get to at the end of this trailer. I imagine they are expanding, though, the story that takes place in Silverloom. I'm all for that. I love Silverloom. Like I said before, it's absolutely gorgeous. Really interested to see where this goes from here, but we just don't know that much about her yet, or at least about this Skell particularly. Then we proceed through the trailer. Oh, there is a few things I want to point out here. So if we go back a bit, and we freeze frame this here, you can notice this insignia on her chest of the pilot here. And we've seen this helmet before in other parts of the trailer. It's a bit wacky, reminds me of Emil from Nier. I like it. However, she does have the moniker for Blade here, which is like the main military group that you'll be aligning yourself with throughout Xenoblade X. So it does seem to be that she is human, or she is fighting on behalf of Blade or something. She joined up. Just another pilot who's really good and pilots this Skell here. We get a really cool cinematic fight there. This helmet, which looks like an emote in the making, really nice, like it. You can actually see the Blade emote even better there.
That might be a skill you're in the market for.
And it does seem as if we'll be able to pilot Ragnarok at some point for ourselves, which looks pretty dang cool. This is Nintendo and Monolith waking up to the fact that Uncontrollable is one of the best songs ever made in the history of mankind. Mozart could never, so they've decided to put it in the trailer here behind a giant hype section that happens later on in the game with the actual 9-head there with that gangling alien. We have the Furry Patrol here, they're kind of badass, they're really cool. You'll meet them in the game as well. Hello, new character. That, or my memory is shot, but I'm fairly confident this is the new character everyone keeps raving about called Neil Nail. That may not be a name in English, though, but she seems to me to be a significant character because they dedicated multiple frames just on this zoom-in shot of her face here. That, to me, normally tells me that that's probably going to be an important character when it comes to this game, especially when it comes to, like, a Xenoblade game and stuff like that. It's just, like, a feeling I get. Things you can, like, notice about her as a character. Her earrings, to me, look familiar. I just cannot place them for the life of me. I don't think they're the life hold because of the wrong shape, but they look familiar to me, though it could just be a fun little cheeky reference. Sometimes when it comes to Xenoblade X, you can't take everything you see at face value, that it's some, like, greater meaning or some greater reference to another Xenoblade game, because we've had little, like, fun Easter eggs like that in Xenoblade X before, like Lynn's hair clip being the Monado, or Tatsu having Riki's club thing on his backpack and stuff like that. They, at least back in the day, like to include some Easter eggs to Xenoblade 1, just not for any lore significant reason, just as a fun little reference to the other games. It could be a case like that here. However, she does have like these furry ears, she has these facial markings or tattoos, which look rather distinct and interesting.
Troops.
And yeah, this guy looks so kind of weird to me, I'm not gonna lie. And then the following part of the trailer comes from a part later on in the game that they're probably showing just to show how hyped this game can get, how hyped the story can be, with the invasion of New LA. It's a really cool moment in the base game. I love this section. Yeah, nothing particularly new that I noticed here. Not saying that there's nothing new here, I'm just saying I didn't notice anything myself. But God, I can just listen to this song all day. I can just listen to the soundtrack of Xenoblade X all day. And now we get to the good stuff. We get to the new part, because apparently Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition will be bringing to the table a new story beat at the end of the game, or at least near the end of the game. I'm imagining it's at the actual end because of this part right here. If you know Future Connected from Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition, I imagine this will fulfill that role here for X. And we have this new character here. I have not seen him before in Xenoblade X, at least I don't remember. It has been a while since I played the game fully, so my memory could be a bit hazy. I just don't recall this character, but we can actually see his hair, and I'm going to be really pointing out that in particular in a few seconds here. We see Lau on the beach here, and in order to properly explain and break down this part of the trailer, I do have to go into spoilers about the original Xenoblade X, like the ending of it all. So that's your warning for the rest of this video, full spoilers from here on out. So, Lau lived at the end of Xenoblade X. We thought he heroically sacrificed himself to stop the final boss after he went villain, and we managed to bring him back with Talk No Jutsu. But we found out at the end of Xenoblade X in a post-credits scene that Lau managed to live, and it was the big cliffhanger, or one of the big cliffhangers for the original version of Xenoblade Chronicles X. We just never had a continuation of that story. Now, it seemingly is going to be that they're introducing a bunch of cut content that was originally cut from Xenoblade Chronicles X, and they're bringing it into Definitive Edition, which is fitting for me. I imagine, or at least I've heard, that Ragnarok from before, and that character, was originally cut content that you could find in the art book for Xenoblade X. I just don't possess that art book. But when it comes to this character specifically, we could never really see his face, so we didn't know who he was. And as he starts to turn around a bit, I want you to notice something. Now, I'm not the best when it comes to color. I have issues with color. However, look at the hair color that this guy has right here. Does it look familiar? To me, this doesn't look coincidental. And I think there's a reason they're showing Elma's older form here and not her new form she unlocks at the end of Xenoblade X. I think there's a reason for that. Because my theory, like my knee-jerk theory in regards to this, is that this mysterious stranger, the black hooded stranger, is actually the mysterious partner Elma had when they were escaping Earth aboard the White Whale. You can find out in Xenoblade X, through Elma's story and the main story, that she used to have a partner, someone she cared a lot about. Not necessarily romantically, we just don't know. We just know that she cared a lot about this character and about this former partner of hers, who managed, and now we're gonna head on over to the wiki, link in the description down below, because I think this blurb does a really good job of summarizing what's going on here, or at least for that part of the story. The war had begun in July 2054 AD. We find that out at the very beginning of the game. And so Elma boarded the White Whale to escape Earth. After 2 years wandering in space, the Ghosts had caught up with them. The Ghosts were the other alien faction that were waging war against the Ganglion, and Earth got caught in the crossfire initially, and that's why humanity had to evacuate from Earth. The Ghosts being that elusive second faction we hadn't seen all that much, we'll get to them though, and managed to caught up with the White Whale and assaulted the Ark ship. Both Elma and the guy that she admired used a tandem skull to ward off the invasion. During the attack, bear all that in mind, just like remember this. During the attack, the unnamed hero ejected Elma out of the skull, presumably to save her. The hero and the ghost seemingly vanished during all the chaos. As a result of the attack, the White Whale's flight system was shut down, causing it to crash land into a nearby planet known as Mira. There's something weird about Mira. As a team, leader of Blade, Elma was tasked with finding crash survivors on Mira. You see most of that in the intro cutscene for Xenoblade Chronicles X. But there's a couple of little story details that I find particularly intriguing. One, this direct connection that is established between the ghosts and Elma's elusive partner, but also that the Skell they piloted was a tandem Skell, because I don't think we saw one of those, at least playable-wise, in the original version of Xenoblade X. But the tandem Skell is important to note. Because there's two people on this screen, I'm fairly confident I'm just reaching for straws with that one. However, Elma is a space alien. She just is. And it wouldn't surprise me if her mysterious partner was also a member of her race or something like that, or at least had some kind of similarity to Elma. We know it's a guy. It's not like the most carved into stone theory of all time, but I do think there's something to note here, mainly because of circumstantial evidence in the immediate scene following what we just saw here, with Elma and the crew being assaulted, or at least surrounded, by these weird skells that I don't remember seeing these guys in the base game. We might have seen them, just saying I don't remember them. But they're also being assaulted and blasted apart by these giant beams of light coming from the heavens, seemingly from a singular point. And they're getting blasted out of the sky by these powerful laser beams. That's not the thing I really want to pay attention to. What I want to pay attention to are two things. One, this entity attacking these mysterious creatures here, indirectly or directly, are saving Elma and crew. Second of all, this strip here, you see it throughout this scene here, and there's multiple of them. It looked very odd to me, right? It looked very odd to me, and then I rewatched the intro cutscene to Xenoblade Chronicles X. In the intro scene, we see the fight between the Ganglion and this mysterious other entity, the ghosts. These are them, yeah? Do these ships look familiar, by the way? Because they're pretty much the ones we just saw in that scene. Now, there's another connection to draw here for the ghosts. Right after this part, right here. Look. You see them? It was fast. Did you catch it, though? It's the same, long centipede-like entity, like some kind of drone formation that the ghosts seemingly utilize in the military tactics. We see that here by the ghosts, and we see it here in the new story epilogue to Xenoblade Chronicles X with Definitive Edition, because we deal with the Ganglions originally at the end of Xenoblade X, but we never managed to deal with the ghosts. They were always an enigma. They were always a question mark saying, what was going to happen with them? What were they about? What were their motivations? Why didn't we ever really meet up with them? Well, that seemingly is what's happening here in Definitive Edition's new story. In the Xenoblade X's version of Future Connected, apparently, the ghosts managed to catch up to us. As a Xenoblade X nerd, as someone who grew up with this game, this amazed me. Because I've been curious about these guys for the longest time, and we're finally addressing them. And if we're going to address the ghosts here, it would make logical sense that this other mysterious character associated with, the main character of Xenoblade X, that's not your creator character guy, Elma, because Elma's largely the face of Xenoblade X, that mysterious partner she has, who is only ever referenced, it makes sense that if they're going to reintroduce the ghost here, that will also cover what happened to a partner. And this guy does bear a resemblance to Elma in some way with the hair, at least. And they both have another connection if you really want to dig into the weeds here. They have another connection with Lao, where throughout a large part of the latter half of the story for Xenoblade X, the dynamic between Elma and Lao is antagonistic, and here, between these two, it's seemingly cordial, at least friendly, something like that. It's kind of interesting to note. But not just that, we have even more, because there's another new Skell. Look at this dude, look how cool this looks. First of all, let's nerd out about how awesome this scene is, yeah? The inner Armored Core nerd within me is just squeeing right now. Boom! It's so fast and vicious, the choreography, mwah, beautiful, love it. But, again, look at this Skell. It looks really dang cool, doesn't it? But it also looks very unique. And now we have to talk about the thing that everyone in my comment section keeps bringing up. because when you notice it, it is hard to not notice it. We gotta go back a few frames here, and there it is. On the shoulder, possibly in other parts of the thing's body, it's just this angle, this perspective makes it very visible here. This looks a lot like the Mobius symbol from Xenoblade 3. To me, it kind of looks a little bit different as well. I don't think there's much of a direct connection there. It could, don't get me wrong, because if there's going to be a place you integrate the story of Xenoblade X with the original trilogy, that would be it in this new story, but, like, maybe it could. I'm not, like, trying to disprove that possible theory. I just want to bring up the earlier thing we talked about, that Xenoblade X likes to make references to previous Xenoblade games. At least with the original Xenoblade X, it made a bunch of just cool little Easter eggs and references that weren't meant to be taken too seriously. In regards to Xenoblade 1, it could be that just this is that for Xenoblade 3. Entirely possible, but where's the fun in that, right? I like to overanalyze, so let's do it. I find it highly likely that this is the skull that comes in clutch to save Elma and crew here, because of one singular main point here. Again, the guy who's not good with color is going to use color as a justification for his overthinking techniques. Notice the beam of light here that's being shot at the members of Ghosts, these like other aliens. We'll probably get an actual name for them in the game when it comes out. You see this like color here? Does it look similar to the emissions coming off, well, there, but also from the back here? Probably nothing, but I'm still kind of the opinion that this is probably the skull that is saving the crew here. I think it's highly likely. It seems like the story beat they would actually do. But we are seeing Lao, at least I'm imagining this is Lao, because we see his hair there. We scroll back and we don't get flashbanged. You can kind of little bit see it. It doesn't look like the light color the other guy had. This is probably Lao meeting back up with the crew. And the cameraman is absolutely a fiend for focusing right on my boy's cheeks here, but oh well. I digress. I imagine all of that up to now happens at like the very beginning of the new story in Definitive Edition, in this like future connected analog for Definitive Edition. I imagine like all this happens like right near the beginning of it, and then we travel to this new area, this floating continent location. Looks very interesting. Reminds me a lot of Azzy Salah from Final Fantasy XIV. If any of you out there play that game, you'll know what I'm talking about. Very reminiscent in terms of the overall aesthetic to me there. Now, I want to let this whole, like, Definitive Edition new story section just play in its entirety, and I want you all to pay attention to the dialogue here, because I find it very intriguing.
People still need me. Humanity still needs me.
That skull!
You're still alive?
This skull was always leading the way, guiding us where we're needed.
People still need me. Humanity still needs me.
Humanity still needs me. People still need me. That, to me, also backs the idea that this is Elma's former partner, and he's managed to live somehow, because it makes sense why he would be on Mira. Like, a lot of things are just lining up, because if you're going to continue this storyline, you might as well continue the story of Elma, because she's, like, the big character. She is the face of Xenoblade X, and this is an intriguing way that's just, like, a natural way to continue that storyline, in my opinion. It makes sense to me.
You're still alive?
That Skell, he's still alive. So this doesn't seem like, unless they're talking about Ragnarok or a different Skell we haven't seen yet, there appears to be a Skell that is guiding the main party. Whether this is a new story beat that we will see throughout the original story as well, or it happens largely just in the future connected new story for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, is yet to be determined. But I think it's safe to say that there is at least a Skell. We don't know if it's going to be this one or not, but there's at least a Skell out there that is guiding the main party, and at one point in time, they believe to be terminated for one reason or another. That was actually a bit misleading on my part, apologies. I'm talking about the line of dialogue Elma has here.
This Skell was always leading the way. This Skell was always leading the way, guiding us.
Guiding us. That's what I'm talking about here. In regards to this part specifically, sorry, a lot going through my brain here. In regards to this part specifically,
you're still alive?
They could be alluding to that skull, or I kind of think they're talking about Lao here, and he shows up in the Ares. That's what I kind of think's happening here. There's a couple different ways this dialogue could go down. Either they're reacting to seeing Lao again, or they're reacting to this skull that's guiding them. It's like one of those two interpretations, in my opinion, but we just need a bit more information to be sure. But what we do know is that there is a skull that is guiding them, at least bringing them to this new location, this floating continent up in the sky, has this, like, energy shield surrounding it, almost like a barrier, almost as a way to protect itself, or as a way to shield itself for its presence from the outside world. Maybe this was here the entire time, or it just shows up, like this could have been camouflaged up in the sky, and then for some reason with this floating skull, or this new skull, this guiding skull, shows us the way to it. This seems to be the new area. I mean, it makes sense. Why would this be before this point? This seems to be a new area brought in for the new part of the story.
Guiding us.
Again, this could go in so many different ways, 'cause I don't think we've seen that far into the new content. I think this is, like, barely past the introduction, if that. It does kind of seem as if they are very purposeful when it comes to what elements of this new zone they showed off.
In the way. Guiding us.
Right? Like, it does seem as if there's large chunks largely over here, or just something that we haven't gotten to yet, and they're showing off this one aesthetic, because there is some color to this zone. But I will say, it does kind of feel as if we're missing, like, half of it, or they haven't shown it. It feels like they're holding something back to prevent spoilers, which makes a ton of sense, right? That's not a con, I'm just saying. It feels as if there's still a giant reveal to be had. I'm keeping an eye out for this giant thing over on the left here. Not sure what that's all about, but very interesting. Maybe what I've just talked about is partly coming from an area where I'm like, I would like there to be a bit more to this zone than just a bunch of, like, floating brown rocks. That'd be kind of cool. You do have this one building here, which I don't think is Alchemoth, but it does remind me of that visual, if that makes sense. Very interesting, very intriguing. Again, you do see this tower and this plant over here in the distance. It could just be foliage, it could be like a tower that's artificial, we don't know. I imagine this new story will be dealing a lot with Elma's former partner, probably making a return, pairing up with Lao for whatever reason. Man maybe likes to lose, we know he's a bit used to that. We do have a ship over here on the bottom right corner of this part of the screen. That's interesting, reminds me of the Manon in a lot of ways. But I imagine the Ghost, that other alien faction from the beginning of Xenoblade Chronicles X, who fought the Ganglion, and in the crossfire, Earth pretty much gets destroyed. I imagine this new story will have them taking center stage, possibly as the antagonists, probably as the antagonists. They've never really been shown to be at all positive or at all showing anything but hostility to humanity. And it makes sense to me that in the base game we deal with the Ganglions, so in this new story we deal with the ghosts, or at least we get introduced to the ghosts, because now we come across the big question. Is this story self-contained, or is this a prelude leading to a future story for Xenoblade Chronicles X2? That's a question that is on the tip of my tongue, that is racking my brain right now, because I just don't know how long this new story is going to be. Because it took the entirety of the original game to deal with the Ganglions. Do you just want to deal with the ghosts in this extra little story that will almost certainly be shorter than the base game, probably feature connected length? Do you want to do that? I mean, you probably could. It's Monolith. I trust them enough to tell a compelling story in that regard. But it does kind of feel to me that this does feel as if it's leading to something else. I'm fine either way. I'm just extremely curious to find out what is the goal here. And with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. Those are just the things I managed to scrounge up, I managed to find throughout reading the wiki for, like, previous entries in Xenoblade X, like I showed before, or just, like, perusing this trailer, making some connections. If you noticed anything else, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear it, love to hear your thoughts, hear your theories, and go wild. Yeah? Don't Don't be afraid to be wrong. Go wild with it. I'd love to hear your wildest theories, your thoughts, and your opinions, and just how excited you are for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. If you can't tell, I am particularly tantalized. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.